Hello, welcome back. Good morning. And thank you to everyone who's shared some feedback and hearing your thoughts. Much appreciated. So today we'll start with a short story of the honeybee.
Once upon a time, there was a honeybee who was having a great life in the garden, playing with the gentle breeze, visiting flowers, and collecting honey. One day, the same honeybee found a honey pot. For the bee, this was an extraordinary gift. The entire pot was full of this most refined, sweet honey. "This is all for me," the bee said to itself. The bee was very happy. Sometime later, the bee fell into the honey pot and started to drown in the honey. The bee was caught in the honey and had no way of escaping. Its nose and ears were full of honey, and its wings were trapped in the sticky substance. It was all very sweet, but it was suffocating the bee. The immediate need for the honeybee was to come out of the honey pot so that it could breathe and stop suffocating, so that it could use its wings again. When the honeybee was finally free, it enjoyed the sky, and it also was free to take fragrance of the honey. This story is so vivid and accurately explains the human dilemma. We are in a similar situation to the honeybee. This entire physical world is like a honeypot for us. It's an extraordinary gift, but it can also trap us. The entire department of sorrow that ever existed in human beings is only because of being trapped in this honeypot. When an individual sees himself as a guest on this planet, he remains free. As a guest, he remains involved with the world around him, but still remains free. When he loses the spirit of a guest, he begins to claim things, as if getting drawn into the honeypot. The wisest thing that anyone can do is to find the way out of the honeypot. To stop suffocating, to breathe, and to hopefully discover their wings and fly.
Wanted to share this because it was alluded to how there can be like a feeling of being stuck. And this story I feel is so vivid and resonates, whether one has totally new. We feel it with our thinking that ordinarily it can get so caught up as we put it in the image of a box. And this beautiful option to, yes, be involved, but take the fragrance and not lose this orientation of having wings. So the mind is connected to the feeling and the reality of complete freedom. So it'd be great to see how today progresses further to this perspective of science and the rational. So welcome, Prashant. Good morning.
Thank you, and hello and welcome. So far, we have touched the subject of our journey. We saw the obvious blind spots, something that is so obvious. We have an exit that is so obvious, and everyone wants to deny it as if we don't accept death. But all of these things we saw is a result of Patthar. Patthar cannot see the big map, and then he has to deal with shocks. What is so natural and normal, he interprets it as sorrows. We are seeing the contrast. We are seeing how we can see the same world in clarity. That is all. It is not a different model. We may use the language spiritual model, just means seeing in clarity. And when we see in clarity, we are understanding the absurdity of, well, the public, how everyone is seeing with this in darkness as if. But there are consequences. It becomes very childish to claim something that doesn't belong to you and cry. That is childish prank. But when it is happening at a universal level, we create wars, and there are mental health issues, and there are angers and depressions. The whole department of sad, bad, mad is just because of that crossing the line. And we also saw we can change it very, very quickly. And biggest help in this is using the best intellect, that is Paras. We all have it. We still need to use it, and it will become stronger. We want to change this perspective of the whole world, but it has to start from the self. So let us start now also. Let us create a few minutes of reset. And for this, we start with the Paras. And the moment we use Paras, what happens? We can see the great story world. Everything that happened from morning today happened in a story. And what is happening now, this gathering, it is also happening in the story. It is not our story. There are many stories in the world. If it appears my story or me within the story, it is the result of confusion. Story is always separate. With Paras, we can see the world beyond the story, and that is the real world. And in this world is the true family, true home. This whole dimension is alaukic, unearthly, subtle, but also divine and eternal. It is like being out of the honeypot. We are seeing this dimension. We see it in the image of the sky. And in this world is the true self. True self wakes up in this environment. And for him, it is normal to be a presence, bodiless and immortal. It appears normal. Happy to see himself as a invisible witness. This moment, very happy to know that he is completely separate from the story. It is normal for him. Normal to belong to that supreme sky. Invisible witness. He knows that he is never a victim and he is never a beggar. He knows his complete independence from the story, amused by the story. But what is happening in the story is not his problem. He silently is aware that he is very, very lucky. He knows everyone is lucky. All are immortal. All are beyond harm and harmless. And all are good, noble. As we continue on our journey, we remember the immensely beautiful truth of everyone. We remind ourselves that the universe is positive and everyone, all life, all living beings, all these many invisible travelers, they are positive, naturally positive. Thank you. Mhm. So we come with our nice whiteboard and we want to remind ourselves the most important thing for everyone. Reminding that everyone has a home and they all are all are beyond harm. Nothing can harm them. We said they are all naturally positive. One thing is they are beyond harm. Another thing is they need nothing for their existence. No needs. The whole human race is absolutely fired by this constant need. They need to survive, so they, at a physical level, there are needs. When we come to this dimension, they exist forever. They need nothing. They don't need oxygen. They don't need water. They need nothing. That's why the natural state is of ignorance of the word desire. And if there are no desires, there are no disappointments. One is they have no needs and nothing can harm them. Just to compare with the human beings of the present time, they constantly have to think about what might harm them. If not animals, there can be human beings, there can be matter, elements, floods, tornadoes. So there is something or the other going that can harm. And it is in the back of the mind. If not all of these things, someone's words can harm you. You see them as an attack. And so, lots of energy goes into dealing with this, protecting oneself. Potentially victims as a result. These beings, nothing can harm them. Even someone's words and all, they can't harm them. Do you want to tell why someone is insulting you and it doesn't harm them? How come? Someone is falsely, defaming you, insulting you. Some word, some meant to really. And how come it doesn't harm them beyond harm? How is that possible? Do you want to tell? Is that possible?
Because you see it as part of the drama. It's possible if you see it as part of a performance.
Sure.
You say
People
stick.
sometimes take sorrow even from the drama.
Yes. There's that expression, sticks and stones can break my bones, but words can never hurt me. So
Yeah.
maybe there's a certain wisdom. They don't have attachment to matter.
Yeah, sure. And today we'll discuss the subject of ego. They have not created an ego. Ego is the one that is quick at taking offense and quick at giving offense. These invisible travelers, they are egoless. And they are free from dependencies of any kind. That's why no one can deprive them of anything, no one can deny them of anything, no one can harm them, no one can insult them. They stay naturally positive. If all these things are not there, the natural state is of bliss, and the natural state is of contentment and peace. And they know of their absolute security. This is the state, starting position of everyone. And we are grasping it. trying to see how normal it is for us to come in that space. It is just confusion that makes us mix our life with the story. Nothing else. If there is confusion, we'll mix the life. As long as there is confusion, we can't let go of it. In the darkness, we mix our world with the story. Our effort is to see this life of the invisible players separate from the story. The more you see your life separate from the story, there is progress. There is benefit. Everyone is positive, everyone. And that's why it is an auspicious world. That's why the word supreme reality. That's why the words divine, divine family, and your nature is divine. All are divine. As was said, we are coming today to the subject of identification. First time I came across this word in English word, which is nice. And this is not beautifully discussed in other languages the same way. I asked, what does that mean, identification? An example was given to me. If the cat has got something stuck in the throat, I feel as if it is happening to me. That is identification. I felt I don't do that. It's okay. Some people may be doing it, and so it was. Then that was the end of it. In time, I realized how extensive this phenomena is, identification. To see yourself to be somebody else, you are thinking yourself to be somebody else. We gave the example just now. You watching a film and something is happening on the screen and you cry. There is an identification. You feel as if it is happening to you. I give the example. Say there is the example of John Lennon, and John Lennon was worshipped by the whole world at that time. And one man by name Mark Chapman. Mark was a fan. He absolutely worshipped John Lennon for many years. He had hairstyle like John Lennon. He had posters of John Lennon. And this has been going on for many years. And then in time, he started to feel he himself is John Lennon. Such confusion was so much that he thought he is John Lennon. There may be many people who think they are Presley. So that is a drama that goes on in the world. One friend of ours, he's an actor. He was acting in a certain role. Let us call the role he was acting a James Bond. It is not, in this case, it was not James Bond, but let us say Bond. He was playing the part. And his name is something else, Robert, let us say. In time, he said, that role started taking over me. He was getting confused. Who am I? Am I James Bond or am I Robert? And he had to go to the doctors, and doctors told him to stop acting for many years. So at home and all, he was feeling he's James Bond into this kind of situation. So these cases are identification. Mark identifying with John Lennon, Robert identifying with James Bond.
Happens in computer games now. People play Avatar and feel that that is who they are.
Yes, it may be even more often. Now, let us take another example. Some simple examples to demonstrate. I am visiting this house and there is a plant. I am asked to look after this plant when I'm here. And I'm very happy to look after the plant. And after a few days, when someone visits and says that plant is very ugly, and the person feels a little bit offended, a little bit surprised. Does he look surprised? I wanted to show the surprise expression. He's a bit shocked there to hear the criticism. So why should he feel hurt if the plant is criticized? He's not criticized. No one's saying he is ugly. They say plant is ugly and he takes the offense. Why? Do you want to tell? Those who have not heard this before, they get chance to hear answer first. Why does he take the offense when they just say the plant is ugly? They didn't say anything about him.
They identify with the plant. As if they've said it to him personally, but even though it was to a plant.
Yes. And so as we go down the spiral, our confusion, confusion comes in. To start with, we start to feel as if this plant is part of me. Something, we sort of start including everything, mixing the story with our world. So this plant is all mine. And then I take self-respect based on the plant. And the next thing that happens, we have given a birth to an I based on the plant. This is what the identification is. We have given birth to an I, which means now anything is said about a plant, it feels as if they are saying it about me. That is what we mean by identification. It is becoming a personal description or criticism. So they praise the plant, it appears as if they're praising me. They criticize the plant, it appears they're criticizing me. This is identification. Do we identify like this? I want to tell. We are in this world. Do we identify like this?
Of course, is the response. Yes, agreed.
Can you give the examples?
Football team is a big one. The phone that we have, the things that we choose to buy, maybe the shop that we buy it from. The jobs, our profession, our skills, our house, property, our personality. So when someone criticizes our nature, we take it personally. The roles that we play, if we're a parent, someone's sister, the habits, we identify with the voice. And when it's told it's strange, we feel offended. Nationality, religion.
Yeah, very good. And yeah, very, very clear. So here we are seeing we are in this story world. Isn't it all the time good for us to remember this invisible traveler is visiting this story world. It's a foreign world, and he has an exit. He has got no demands. He has no even preference. Without permission, there is an exit. Now, during this short time, see the scale of his entitlements. He feels as if this is mine and this is me, and it's sort of quite settled there. And now he starts thinking he himself is that body and the role from a story. A bit like saying, I am Harry Potter. It happens at a subconscious level. It is not happening conscious. Mark Chapman, when he said, I am John Lennon, it has reached the level of being conscious. He would tell others, I'm John Lennon, this kind of thing. Here, subconsciously, we are identifying with the body, we are identifying with many, many things. It is like this department of identification is extensive. Identifying with other people, like children. So someone says that child is lazy, you take the offense. And then some identify with the dog and the cat, identify with your possessions, like clothes, sometimes mobile, car, identify with the country you are born in, country you live, identify with the religion you are born in. You may not practice it, but you identify. And that department keeps increasing. And identify with image of oneself. Worth remembering this. I am polite. I am the one who should be respected. These kind of images. What's the problem? Okay, I identify. Is there a problem with it? Why should I be so bothered about his identification? What's the big deal? You want to tell? Okay, I identify.
Well, we get highs, but we also get lows when we identify because it hurts. So maybe get a crash. If you experience sorrow, it hurts. You become part of the identification.
We said in our earlier discussion, this box, you create even a little dependency there. Victim starts. Insecurity starts. Just a little dependency, a little attachment. Identification is a heavy attachment. My itself is a one level of attachment. Here you are going to the level of I. You're defining yourselves based on things. So any criticism, anything, insecurity that comes, your subconscious fear is you are going to die. This is the fear inside. So if you criticize the religion, the person may not even be practicing religion. But a huge energy comes, he is ready to declare a war. And it is because that I, based on the religion, feels it may die. If I allow you to criticize, then something is going to die. That's why this huge energy there to fight. But it also means we take sorrow, huge sorrow. The sensitivity is very high with I. So each of these I are very, very insecure. They are hardwired to the victim mentality. And when you are insecure, your desperations are very high. from desperation. Stress is high, angers are high, sorrows of different kinds, and envy. Everything will be magnified, because deep inside you are in your confusion. You think you have to survive to that ego. That identity is the ego. You think you have to survive, but surviving to what? To this. When you are in clarity, you are aware that you are immortal. No one can harm you in the first place. And this false I is forever feeling under attack. So what is the answer? People, they all want to get a little bit more praise and a little bit more attention. It gets bigger. So more you get it, you get a bigger hat and more praise, then this I gets bigger. And bigger I is more insecure. Bigger I is more stressed, more. And all this insecurity presents with emptiness. One manifestation of insecurity is feeling empty. So if we are in this reverse gear, when we show this downward spiral, it is a reverse gear. He wants to feel fulfilled. Everyone wants to, they are trying their best to feel fulfilled. They get all these achievements, and they get praise and they get position. But more they get it, this little I gets bigger, the victim gets bigger, insecurities increase, and he feels more empty and more angry. It is this false I that is hardwired to these three words of psychiatry: sad, bad, mad. Whole psychiatry is within these three words. It is not just few people who are going to the hospital, they have this problem. This whole world is in that direction. Some people, some fraction, top of the iceberg reach there, but there's a much bigger iceberg under the surface. So we have created a society now where this is not even questioned. It appears completely normal. We create an identity not even observed that we are identifying. And it is not academic, it is dominating our lives, our feelings, emotions, relationships, relations between the countries. They are all based on these identities. What are you identifying with? And wars happen 100% because of identities. 100% of angers, 100% of depressions are because of these identities. And unless that is addressed, you can't remove it. And it is possible sometimes in some spiritual effort making. Someone says, I'm going to be free from anger from today. You can't. From the first second, we can tell you can't. Just by taking a decision, free from anger. To become free from anger, you need to first see what is under the surface. Where is the seed? Where are the roots? If that is not even seen, how can you say you are going to be free from anger? No one is. These are not, negotiable. If the root is very there, someone says something happens, he will predictably react in a certain way. It is like you press a button, it is like in that mindset of the victim and the slave, he has no choice. He is a slave. Someone says something, he will react, anger. can suppress it. That is possible. Broadly, we understand, we identify, that is not enough. We need to observe what we are identifying with. In different situations, they are very, very helpful to us. That helps you to see what you are identifying with. You may be identifying with an image that I am the one who is always nice, and someone proves that you are not nice, or someone shows you are, or blames you for not being nice, for not being friendly. And you have an image, I'm very friendly, I'm so good, I'm doing so many good things, I'm a kind person, and someone blames you for not being kind. That will be very painful for the person.
It's irrelevant whether it's true or not. That's not the point, is it?
Yeah. We want to be kind, but we don't need to create an identity that we are kind. You got a dog, that is nice, but you don't need to create an identity based on the dog. Dog may be very nice. You may have a very great job, but don't need to create an identity. Because to define I, that is so absurd. Can you imagine? You define I based on the car or dog or shoes. That can be anything. Mark Chapman says, I'm John Lennon. It is not like a joke there. It is madness. John Lennon, that person, Mark Chapman, is still in the psychiatry prison. So this is like a, we are crossing this line into serious confusion when we are crossing into ignorance and these identities. You want to add anything?
When you were mentioning the example of the soul, so being kind, well, the soul is innately kind, so why would it be called an identity? Isn't it just the reality?
And one is the original nature of the soul is one thing, but at a practical level, right now, in the interaction, here we are talking about the story and the drama. The actions are happening from kindness. That is very good. Also, you deep inside feel kindness, and actions are also from kindness. But when you create an identity that I am kind, that identity is based on the Harry Potter. You are creating this identity based on the story. It is like another bondage. You are creating a bondage in the drama. And because it is in that drama, let me come to that sketch. Because in that box, you are creating this identity, it is insecure because it can be removed, it can be destroyed, people can disprove it. Everything is going to disappear anyway, in that you yourselves are going to come out of that story. And your identity is based on that Harry Potter. Harry Potter himself is going to go. Harry Potter has got a script, and next script he may not be kind. And you are relying upon this. When you are soul conscious, you know you are immortal. And if you are kind, you remain kind. You don't need someone else endorsing it. If you are loving, full stop. There is no internal desperation, begging. please tell me I am nice. Please tell me I am loving. No, he's loving. That's the end of it. He's feeling secure in himself. But when you are creating this identity based on the unpredictable story, that identity is very insecure. That's why we are mentioning, right from the beginning, any bondage in this unpredictable story, that is the cause of all collapse of our ethics and collapse of our peace and happiness, creating the bondage. I is a very deep bondage. Sarah, want to add anything?
Yeah, it's interesting to see identification as a deep bondage. We can see how much it creates slavery, and we can't uphold the values that we may cherish, even if it becomes ironic with a religion or even spirituality.
Let me give an example. Someone says to you, you are having ego, you got arrogance, but you are selfish. Someone says, that you are selfish. How will you react? Internally, what will you feel? And it is announced on BBC that you, Mr. Freddy, you are selfish. How will you react? Now,
Feel
if
sad on response.
hmm?
Resentment, hurt, sadness.
Yeah. Now, if you are in the soul space, soul conscious space, you will say, oh, soul is immortal, soul is, yourself, whether you got ego or no ego, you don't know, you don't have, there may be zero ego there, and there may be zero, vices, and you say what you are, you remain. You know this. What not? It doesn't change. Someone says you are blue, you are green. You don't become green. You don't become blue. What you are, you remain. But the ego that is created inside, it is based on the story. It will be bothered by by you saying this. He may even know that he is arrogant, and he may even know that he is not perfect, but still he will be bothered, and he will like you saying, oh, you are so humble and all. He will like to you saying this, because ego is based upon and something that is superficial, that is based on the story, and it can be propped up only by these external endorsements. When that stops, this also pops. That ego, it bothers him.
Like a balloon, you have to keep putting the air, otherwise it deflates.
Yeah. So in our society right now, we have created a structure where we feed each other's ego, and we think it is a harmony, harmonizing of sanskaras. So it might be interpreted as feeding each other's false identities as harmonizing of sanskara. I was at one gathering, and this was a gathering of academics and dean of the medical college, and it is at his house. And I was very surprised. First 15 minutes go just to feed each other's identities. Small talk, and it was not required. It was there was a important things to talk, but first 15 minutes are going just to make everyone else secure in a small talk, but it is meant to feed, showing interest to know about someone's car and someone's tie and someone's shoes and someone's children and someone's, all this is like a, no one is really interested, but they are still talking that because others will feel comfortable. This is the way society is. I like to give one example. One girl, these are real examples. She said she changes her dress 8 times before she goes out to work. And I was, so 8 times, so why you think? What is happening? Why she has to do this? Every day, she says, she tries so many dresses before she goes out to work. What is happening there? Anyone? Anyone is doing this 8 times before going out?
No. Maybe 3 times, someone's saying. It might happen. Changing 3 times. Joke. So why? Choice fatigue. She looks in the mirror multiple times a day, so maybe feeding some identity.
The story, when I reflected on this, here is a girl who is pretty. That is starting position is this. And then you can imagine, rest of it is speculation, my speculation. So right from childhood, everyone telling her, you are pretty, or implied. The message to her is, you are pretty. And poor her, that ego got bigger and bigger. And now she goes to work and no one says anything about her appearance. And so she feels this big ego is now addict. Big ego is always an addict. He wants someone to tell her, endorse her, otherwise he is going to deflate. And so she goes to buy a new dress and still no one says anything. So it is wrecked. You can literally see the life getting wrecked by this big ego that is created. Talking about John Lennon, one interview with John Lennon in 1975, and you may be able to get this recording somewhere. He says, my life is a torture. And then next line he says, it is because of the ego. And which is very, very sensible. Because what is happening there? You get this big success and fame, and they want to worship him. And you are sort of saving the world. Now that ego gets bound to get bigger. At a young age, you are not prepared for it. And suddenly there is this huge thing coming in. So ego gets bigger. And then he says, anyone releases music, he feels jealous, and something else happens, he feels angry. He says, life is a torture. That is the way he says. And that's what he says. And as the ego gets bigger, what does it tell us? That people are not prepared for success. They don't know how to deal with success. Even the slightest praise, slightest little achievements goes straight in the stomach of these false identities. And we are in a reverse gear. Can you imagine if this lady I am talking about, and she says she has to try 8 different dresses, and at the end of the day, she feels completely destroyed because no one is saying anything, or she feels lack of self-respect. It is because this identity is created. based on appearance. Someone creates identity based on his success, based on his achievements. All the success is going into the stomach of the ego false I. And that is the worst thing that can happen to anyone, because these are like demons inside. If someone wants to lower the quality of life, create these false identities, and then you are creating within you the victim and the beggar and the slave straight away. Anyone got identities? Anyone got false I? Small ones?
Small ones, some big ones. There are some questions, but we can come to them shortly, maybe.
Sure. I wanted to just show, if we have to take a photograph of our soul, if there is some app with which you can take a photograph, you may get a picture like this, where there are many I there within, and within this, in the midst of this, there is a real you, but the real you is reduced to a tiny dot. All these other I are I based on the dog, and I based on the children, and I based on your new hat, and I based on your cooking, religion. They all are growing, getting bigger and bigger. We all start from a position like this. When we first come, we don't come as identifying with the car or your position of the governor. We come as invisible travelers here in the foreign world. You come as a guest here. So that is represented by this image. And then we have created at present 100% polluted inner life. It is like an alloy within the soul, and this is the illness in the soul. At the deep level, this is the illness. And to treat this deep illness, we definitely need to create time. Minutes that we create here that will continue to remove these false identities. This will get bigger. And as that gets bigger, these false identities are removed. That is our method. If that attention is not there, there is no method of soul consciousness. Then at present, it is a free fall. These ego are getting bigger and we create new identities. Stone intellect absolutely favors this because it is not questioned even. Yeah, we will see here the questions. It is a good time to address the questions.
Yes, this map is extraordinarily valuable, I feel. It's like, because in psychology, we don't have the idea of the original security that's out of the box, if you like. So we're kind of analyzing these little eyes. And one therapist was saying it's like to burst the bubbles of our thinking, which may not be based on the way things are, like catastrophizing. But she says we burst the bubbles, but we don't stop the bubble machine. So it's like these false eyes will come unless and until there's a replacement, and that we can come from strength of the true I, and that we work in the light, and dark is reduced. So yes, some questions. Why do we create these identities in the first place? Can we stay above all this mess?
Yeah, good question. The whole game is because of confusion, and other reason is indulgence. Someone is praising your shoes. You feel, I just need to identify, and then it becomes my praise. Someone is praising the dog. You, in confusion, you go in that direction. You think it is possible to identify, and praise comes. So it is an indulgence, cheap indulgence. Take that reflected glory, and we identify. Some people, let me ask the question: these identities, do they serve any good purpose? Do they serve any good purpose at all?
So no is the answer so far. When, yeah, does it affirm our goodness? Someone is asking.
Okay, if someone was to say to you, they protect you, these false identities protect. This theory is there in some world. Some people say ego protects us, this kind of thing. He will go fight, because he protects. So does it protect us, the false identities? That is the language used, protect something.
Not at all.
Yeah, first thing to know is this, because it is false identities, its foundation is ignorance. And in ignorance, even it is for someone is trying to protect you, even in ignorance, you won't choose a security man who is himself confused, one who is ignorant. Same here. You don't want someone who is confused, product of confusion, to protect you. But these false identities, they are fired to protect themselves. He's not really protecting anything. Like, for example, we gave the example of the plant, and someone is criticizing the plant. He may start a fight, and because he feels they might damage the plant. He may fight. It appears like a protection. Agree that he is protecting the plant, and it may appear to be okay. It is not bad, but he might get so angry. His identity is so big. He may get so angry with the other person who is criticizing the plant that he may throw the plant at him. And destroy the plant also. He doesn't care to destroy the plant. These false identities are like this. They don't care for what they identify with even. Ego lives for itself. And this is exactly what we see here in the world. People are happy to destroy in the name of some kind of they're they are looking for some justice or something like that. They end up destroying themselves and destroying the world, destroying their country. So the wars yeah, then that is big what is happening from the false identities. We do not need the false identity to deal with our life. It is actually the parasite in the system. And those who say it protects himself. Where is himself? These false identities don't even know the real self. and they are so caught up with some shoes or dog or something, or some religion, so they get into this their fantasy, idea, and they're ready to fight. But true self, they don't even care to know you.
Someone is responding. If someone attacks you, say physically, you still have to defend yourself, and that's self-respect. Any comments on that?
Yeah, and you can do that and absolutely correctly, properly from the true self. We don't need the confusion of the false self to do anything. That plant, taking the example of the plant, someone criticized the plant. And if I'm not identifying with the plant, I hear the criticism and I might say that is not a problem. It may be a good criticism, very, very accurate. It is a good thing to hear that. And I might ask him how to put it right. If something that is ugly, is there a way to change it? And he may have some ideas how it can be made better. I may tell him, okay, do you want to take it with you for a few weeks and bring it back? Change it. So there is no need to declare a war. You remain friendly with them. It is good for everyone when you are not identifying. It may be that there is sometimes someone is saying things out of vengeance or something like this, and you may have to protect the plant, and protect the plant. But there is no need to myself getting angry about it. If someone has got some agenda, it is his problem. It is not my problem.
And here it can be a confusion of terminology, and that word ego is being used with the meaning of false identity. So there are other models that use ego in a different way. May I ask other questions?
Yeah.
When the example of the lady who was pretty and this response was here, so is it wrong thing if I tell my daughter that she is pretty? I do that because I want her to be confident.
Yes, when you understand this bigger map, we want to feed their true identity. Tell them the greatness of the soul. Let them move to that level. At all ages, we can tell that and help them come to that level. And there is no need to over compliment at the drama level. So-called this, you know, positive language that can end up in a flattery kind of direction, and that is not useful to them in the long run. It feeds the wrong side of the other people, as you saw with these examples. If I really love someone, I would be extra careful not to feed their ego. I would like to be them to be free from ego and come in their true identity.
Endorsing someone's ego in this way, it is increasing it, but is criticizing also making a person's ego bigger?
Criticism, no, it doesn't make, but we don't go in that direction. We don't, it's the drama, the variety of characters are there, variety of roles. We understand what is going on, part, so Or if we are in the right state, we remain busy with other things rather than criticizing it.
Maybe
But
when there's criticism, you notice it, whereas otherwise it's not noticed. Sorry.
yeah, just wanted to say, sometimes we may need to give feedback. It's like if you want to give someone some insights, what is right, wrong, and how it can be improved. And sometimes they do something right, tell them this is right. Feedback is one thing, and criticism or praise and compliments and flattery, that is something different.
How to identify that we are creating a false identity. How to tell.
How to know we are
How to know.
creating
Yeah.
false identity? In that, any time you take the offense, even the slightest, and not to ignore it, look under the surface. What is happening in yourself? Observe what is the root of this. As was said, it can be religion, it can be sometimes the idea. Like here, we are talking about these ideas, and one of you might say, these ideas, they are dangerous. What you have spoken just now is dangerous, and it should never be spoken at all. It is good to hear that, and I have to observe if I feel hurt by that. Someone saying these ideas are dangerous. If I feel hurt by that, it means I am identifying with these ideas. We are talking about identities, and I myself could be identifying with this idea. And if I observe it, then it is good, and then I can remove it. If I observe a robber, then good chance I can stop him. If I don't observe him, I won't remove him.
It's good to observe anytime we get a reaction, like example, someone criticizes something that was cooked and maybe it wasn't seen before that it was an identity that I had. Oh, I cook this dish really well, and someone says you need to put less salt or something. And if you feel the reaction, then that's a sign. So it's useful to observe, and in that moment, don't immediately correct them about their salt preference, but use it to observe, this is an identity. So it's useful. Drama of life provides, I think. How do we keep our true identity firm and strong, those strong roots, so we don't take the ego option?
Yeah, that is such a necessary thing. Good question for us. We need to use Paras and see the bigger map. The reason this false identities and it has gone so far because of the Patthar, stone intellect. It is bizarre situation where we are so lost into that honeypot, drowning in the honeypot, and don't even know that we have lost anything. Here we have to see the bigger map repeatedly. Knowing is not enough, experiencing. See the journey of the invisible traveler. And the invisible traveler is separate from Prashant. Prashant is within this part of the story, one character within the story. And the invisible traveler is so separate, and he has a journey. See that repeatedly. More we use Paras with that subtle reality and big reality, the sky will become more and more natural to us. It will look absurd to create any bondage in that little story. We want to go in the honeypot, take fragrance, and then step back, but not drown into the honeypot. This little I come when we start drowning.
Is it useful checking, like, where is my happiness coming from? And often we can tell with the thoughts. Maybe first it's happiness, and then we take the sorrow. If it's first we get to the high, the ego is like inflated, and then he becomes deflated. But maybe checking where our happiness, where our feelings are coming from. Is that
Yes.
useful? So maybe on this note, when you say invisible traveler is observing the drama, where do you see the invisible traveler? Do you see it in the body or outside the body or somewhere in the environment?
To see separate is a good practice. It is like a invisible observer of this, all the drama, whole thing, at a physical level, everything that is going on. One who is observing right now is invisible witness. See it that way. We don't need to see the body and behind the eyes. That is one practice, but it is not the only practice.
Like an objective view, and it bit like an actor on the stage. They are very clear that they are on the stage, but they are also in the field of awareness, seeing all the other actors and the play, but they have that surveillance as if their overview, and that helps them perform their part better in the context. So
Yeah, nice.
someone said, is it like stepping off the stage? I think it's more like reducing the power of it. So if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I agree.
It doesn't overwhelm you like the honey in the analogy of the honey pot. So we could take a break now. There are a couple more questions just to acknowledge them, but we will come back. The question for room discussion could be, what are the different kinds of false identification? I don't know if 10 minutes will be enough. And what is the answer to this false identification? Although it's been discussed, your experiences and your personal reflections would be great. Welcome back. Beautiful sharings. Let's take a short pause before we hear from others, their experiences on this, having been on the stage. Thank you. It's joy spending the quality minute. So would like to invite Sanjay to share some reflections on this topic. Good afternoon.
Hello everyone, thank you again for the invitation. At our room, we were looking about those signs that can indicate that yes, we are identified with false identity. And one indication that was not mentioned is interesting. When we try to defend something, not to be offended or insulted or something like that, we are just moving our fist to defend something that someone said something about. So it is also identifying with soul, with a false identity. And an interesting question also, Ray, was there, what to tell others when you keep seeing all those false identities of them, how to maybe help them or what to do. And it's a good question for all of us. What the thought here is, don't do anything if you don't have something really that can touch them. And maybe as Prashant was saying that, see how you can point to their true self and maybe guide them to see what is true in them and ignore what seems to be a false identity. For myself, I already told this story. Sanjay is known as the best popcorn maker in the Yagia in Israel. So it was one time that a sister came and told me, you know, Brother Sanjay, I taste a very good popcorn for someone else, and it was better than yours. So I was just kind of shocked. No, it's not possible. But since I know this best knowledge and the big picture, and I know how to deal with it, but it was a nice test and practice to keep looking for those indication that show what else am I identifying with, because they will come up, keep coming up from the whenever they, Ravan and Maya, or those you don't know about, but the drama and what you're hearing and seeing can trigger them up, and just as a game, play with them, like in a PlayStation, when this monster come from here, this thing come from there, you just play and just take them out. Not to be too much offended, but use it as an indication that yes, there is something to deal with. Thank you.
Thank you. And there's nothing like personal experience that we can relate, even something silly, but unless we are really fully experiencing the true self, we take from all sorts of limited identities or actions. Thank you, Sanjay. Shane. Would also like to hear from Belinda some reflections on this subject. What comes up for you? And good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Hello, everyone. Yes, this was an interesting discussion in our group, and one of the lighter notes was that some of our identifications, we can really laugh at them, and Sanjay's example of the popcorn maker, maybe at the time it wasn't funny, but I think we can all identify with some examples in our own lives. But the thought here was, what a liberation. Because, as we've heard over the last few days, the ego is so insecure, and you know, danger can come from just anywhere. You never know when you're going to be the flavor of the day or public enemy number one. And just having the knowledge that if there is pain, it is there that we can really look and see what is it that we've identified with, and not to judge the self, as was said. Keep it light, to laugh if we can, but just to see how we've created these identifications, and we continue to create them. I think this is so important, that just because now we know what is causing the discomfort or the pain, doesn't mean that that's the end of the story. That, you know, anytime we can create a new ego identity, and so quickly as well. I just love Sanjay's example of the popcorn, but it literally can be anything that, and it normally starts with someone saying, "Oh, this is so good," or "You're so good," or "You do that so well," and immediately the ego will go for it, and sometimes without us even realizing, a new ego is created. So this awareness is so useful, and it is the way to come out of pain. Really, to recognize that we're so used to saying, "I feel like this because you did this," but no one can do it to us. That pain comes because there's something false inside. And it really is to our benefit to identify and let it go. And as was said, that to help us to let go is really reinforcing the truth about ourselves, which no one has ever told us. The beauty and the divinity of the original and eternal self, and not because we said something or did something, but because that is the truth. And everything else that we've accumulated along the way has taken us away from understanding and seeing the truth of who we are. And as always, that Paris intellect is going to help us the more we sharpen it. So thanks very much.
Thank you. And when you were sharing it, it made me think it's not about being self-deprecating, like praise might come. It's not like, oh, no, or praise adverse. It's when the Paris is there, altogether different feelings. It's like someone might praise something that was in a doll's house. You might have moved the cup in a doll's house, and you say, oh, that was so good. It doesn't really bother. So the more the Paris and we're experiencing this reality, it would be from that space. Oh, good to try to grasp in all situations. Are we feeling it from that higher consciousness? Yeah, thank you. Really appreciated the sharings, and of course, all will have some angles and insights. So encouragement, as always, to share. And we'd like to welcome Prashant back.
Thank you. And thank you to Sanjay and Belinda. Very, very necessary, different aspects, angles. Let us create some time, and in this context, what we are seeing, that using paras and seeing our true self is so radical. It is literally we are telling the false identity, you are not you. This is what we are telling them. What he taught is I, you are telling you are not I. It is a little bit painful for the little I to hear this. But also it appears like a fun. Right now, here, the invisible witness is here, invisible witness, and he's not Prashant. And he's associated with everything. And this invisible witness has his own world, his home. He has his journey. Yesterday we saw reincarnation. Reincarnation is not of Mr. Fred or Tom. They are not reincarnating. Reincarnation is of the invisible traveler. Completely different, 100% different. Just like he is associated with the part of the camel. Next time it can be part of the elephant. For us, it is natural. For Pattar, it is so strange to think about invisible and what is all this. I am this, I'm full stop. I'm Prashant, and don't question it. I'm spiritual Prashant. At most, he can go to that level. But Paras, he says, I am the invisible observer of all this story. And just flying past. What he is, he remains 100%. And in the story, things come, go, change, disappear, story finishes. There's some kind of a script. He is 100% free from it. He knows of his world. This moment, we are not just hearing the concept, but we are seeing the reality this moment. Invisible witness is aware of his world beyond. And knows that all are lucky and he's lucky because the universe is positive. And because everything is so extraordinary, for him, the story is also great. Every scene of the story is a gift. Story is always a gift. In the story, there can be dragons also, not just camel and elephant, dragon. That is also a nice, amusing scene. In the story, there are villains, and story there are fires. Stories are harmless. But for the false identity, story is harmful. He literally, the victim is seeing the whole story. For this identity, for me. Whereas the invisible witness, he finds whole thing is positive. The sky is positive, this world, story world is also great gift. He sees from this different angle. Beyond. Angle is from beyond. That changes everything. That changes the inner life. But it is the most elevated position. If one is free from these identities, you are free from the victim and the beggar and the demon and slave. You are becoming free from all these things. That's why it is the most elevated position. And you understand, you can be immensely useful to others, to help others come out of the honeypot. That's the need of the present time. Need of the present time is not to bring in new honey, more honey. That is not the need of the hour. Need of the hour is to come out of the honeypot. Pattar will say they need more honey. That will solve everything. And we say we just need to step out. Happy. Let us take the questions.
So true that the feeling ordinarily is we need different honey or that we don't know the option that we can step out. This is such a precious tool. What if I'm not comfortable with the part that I'm playing in the story, like the things I have to do on a daily basis? How to know the identity that is behind that?
Yeah, sure. In the world, almost everyone is not happy with their part. And this is because of the false identity. False identity is all the time. He sees himself as a victim and he thinks grass is greener somewhere else. Just like with any drama, those who are even acting in a drama, they are not just seeing my part, they enjoy the whole plot. They are enjoying someone else's, everyone's part, because the plot itself has to become right. If you are in a dance, then the whole dance has to be right. It is not my dance. We have to be in line with everyone else's. So also here, when you are in that higher consciousness, you enjoy the plot, and then my part is not an issue at all. You're quite enjoying the whole thing. In our college, as students, we had one colleague whose family was family of actors, and so he was naturally into acting and making dramas. He used to train everyone, give someone the part of the heroes, someone else. He was sort of selecting the people and giving them the part. And he was taking for himself a very peripheral part, like some security man or something like this, so that he can help others also. But he would be taking it a small part, and the judges still is to give him the best actor prize. best actor was not going to the one who is the hero actor, but he used to get the best actor.
I think sometimes a limited self-image can be one thing, but the drama appears not to match. So it's like different identity is getting deflated. He's got an image of one, so it's almost like feeling bored, or but as you say, it's all at that level, and the super sensuous beyond is actually bringing quality even to something simple, which is so liberating in a world which asks you, what do you do, as if that is the sole, definition of respect and success. But actually, the way you do it is much more telling of your quality of life and inner life. Question: how to be aware of the small I who is trying to observe the I, who is the small I itself. Do you understand the question?
Sure. The best time to spot this false I is when some discomfort. Belinda mentioned it also. But whenever some situation comes and you don't like it, and that time to internally check which identity is not comfortable. When everything is going well, you may not realize that you are identifying with anything. Like, say, example, someone says, something, and you take the offense. Someone says, so and so is making very good popcorns. Someone so and so is preparing very good, what food, and they tell you, you have prepared a meal, and they say, I didn't like this, but someone else prepares nice, or you are organizing something for somebody, your shoes, they are not good. Many people might, they just hear and they didn't hear. It doesn't matter at all. But for some, it may be an offense, and they mind it. Even the slightest 1%, if you mind it, internally to check. Okay, I mind it. So am I identifying with this? Have I got an image of me being, perfect, me being polite, me being accurate? That is another big area, image of ourselves. Image of me being spiritual, me being humble. But identity based on religion, based on people, based on place, country, we need to observe the gross ones, and then you notice the other things afterwards. We need to, as if, develop that skill of introspection. There was one philosopher by name Gurdjieff, and people had to pay to go and take part in his retreats. But he used to pay two people to come and spend time there. And these two people had a special skill to annoy everyone. They knew exactly what to say to anyone so that they can annoy everyone. So it is not a nice comfort retreat, silence retreat, and very nice. He would be creating an environment, everything is stirred up. You can observe your false identities. There are lots of opportunity. So any of you want to attend a retreat like this, let us know.
Yeah, not something that we specialize in, but we could direct. I think the workshop of life provides all of these things, probably. I was looking into, this righteous anger. It's like when it's morally justified, it's not about the self, but some identity with justice, or with the way things should be done. and maybe associated with responsibility. Yeah, so I'm mentioning it because sometimes these things can be hidden. So to question, what identity? How can we not be overwhelmed when we have challenging things to do in the drama? Maybe we need to speak in court to protect our children, and there appears to be a fear of those in authority. We might have that identity, like a kind of insecure, like low self-respect, for example. Any thoughts?
Yes, all of this is going on. There is that mix within. We saw in the sketch before, and all these identities are there. In the midst of this, we have to bring in that higher consciousness. We need to nourish it. And from that higher consciousness, he watches the theater. It is not my story, it's just people are watching, and on the screen, television screen, they pay money and watch that and various dramas. In the same way, for the one who is conscious, this is a soap opera going on, and there are all kinds of variety scenes. He never feels overwhelmed, not the slightest. Even what is all situations going on, he is amused internally because he knows everything is good and everyone is good. Deep inside, he knows everyone is good and everything is good. That Allah kick is alive for him. And we need to nurture that. Maybe seconds, minutes, seconds, but we have to not wait for the high drama. The drama of life is going on, big drama going on. We need to step back and create a hobby of watching from that angle.
Yeah, that's a good point. We don't wait for things to get inflamed, but noticing where the mind is going and taking a high view. It's like building a reservoir of those auspicious feelings. Maybe one more question. Is it ego when others tell you how to be spiritual in practice? Question clear?
If I mind it, then you know it is identity. But people tell, and just it is one scene of the drama, doesn't mean it is ego.
You can't really tell the other if it's coming from ego. I mean, sometimes it's maybe more obvious, but we have to pay attention to our own mind. Yes. So you're saying for our true security and stability, it is something we already have in our true identity and our eternal truth. That was a comment. So anything final to share today? And then we will maybe homework.
And the homework is the same homework that we talked on the second day. That has to continue, because as the invisible witness, as that perspective becomes stronger, then we can see the contrast also better. Then we can see when we are not in that space. Otherwise, all these false identities and all appear completely normal. So that remains the homework. Long-term homework for us is to spot different false identities in ourselves. Drama of life will provide opportunities. It appears to be ordinarily painful for the ego, but for us, these are like the chances. In our culture, these things come very rarely. People are nice to each other most of the time. When situations do come, we have to take opportunity to observe within ourselves and become free.
It's the ultimate positive thinking, because these are opportunities and something to transform. So it's everything is useful material, like the plant. Any weeds, you can uproot them, and it creates nourishment. So, yeah, thank you. So anything, maybe final practice before we finish?
And in this practice, let us come back to that region, the expanse. We see it in gentle red color. Whole scene is timeless. And in this expanse are the living stars. This region is eternal. The living stars, they are immortal. All exist forever. And we do not need to know anything else.
Thank you. Tomorrow, enjoy the practice.